Yes, good afternoon, good folks. We haven't talked about AI in a little bit, so let's do some of that now. We have talked about atom optimizers, right? We talk about atom optimizers as an adaptive estimate. Um, Before that, we generally do compare things to stochastic gradient descent. Um, but before or SGD, but before we even get to that, we got to think about the general premise that when you're training deep neural networks, one of the issues is local minima. You got things like saddle points. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you learned in your, I guess, pre-calculus or calculus class when you were high school. I'll always say machine learning, artificial intelligence is not magic, it's mathematics. But let's look at some TensorFlow a little bit. I know a lot of you use PyTorch, but I like the way TensorFlow is set up with the compile and the fit. I mean, if we're just talking about concepts. So you probably know if you're familiar with TensorFlow, when you compile, that's when you choose your optimizer. And Keras has a library full of atomizers that can be used, whether it's Atomax, which is something that we probably need to talk about more. That's a derivation of atom. We got what else do we have? I don't want to write them on the board because I don't want to take time to do that. Obviously SGD. But once we get to you can pick your optimizer here. And obviously you got other things that you're doing here, but since this is what we're discussing, and then you go into the fit, right? And when you're doing your fit, you think about things like batch size, right? So I know I won't have a whole lot of time to talk about this, but I guess this is where the conversation goes from here. You have optimizers, then you get into your batch size because you have full batches and you have mini batches, right? So what I'm trying to say is you have a lot of options when you're compiling and then fitting your model, and each one had its own trade-offs. Because with a full batch, you're shuffling the whole batch. Mini batch, you're just dealing with mini batches at a time. So there's pros and cons that belong to that. There's with the atom optimizer, there's pros and cons there. Atomax, you got Attacomp, which doesn't replace atom, but it does provide some benefits. So these are a lot of the things we would talk about in terms of optimizers. Again, we're trying to deal with what we call local minima when we're dealing with deep neural networks. But obviously I can't talk about all this in a few minutes, but I'm just kind of framing the discussion. But we will talk later. Peace.